I grew up in the sands of Columbus Park,
Okay.
and I was crazy about baseball when I was a kid. I lived and ate it. There used to be a sewer cover in the Columbus Park where the water used to go in, and it was winter time. Believe me, it was winter time, and I used to. There used to be a sewer cover, and I used to clean the plate like that. And there was a Chet Von East. He used to play for the House of Davis.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard of the House of Davis.
Certainly have.
Had the
Yeah.
and he, he used to live right next to the park. And he used to come on vacation. He used to pitch to me on this in the winter,
Really?
and I used to play. The snow used to be about that high. And yeah, I was always crazy about baseball, and that was my favorite.
Okay.
And
Did,
football.
did Columbus Park look like it does today, or is it the field different?
Well, it's altogether different over the years. They get that
Little League, you know?
little league.
Yes.
They got the fence and stuff like that. That come after me.
Okay.
I never played in I never had the opportunity to play that. I guess I was a little, ahead of it,
Yes. Yeah.
you know. And I never. I wish I had the opportunity to play. It would have been nice, but I never did.
So where did you live?
I live right next to the park, and you know the funniest part of it is, I'll tell you, if you heard that commercial on TV, Anthony, come home.
Yes.
We used to live in a white cottage right next to the Columbus Park. And my mother used to scream from the house, Albino, come on home. That's macaroni day, Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Okay.
you know? And that's how I got my name. And my mother said, Albino. So the guy started named, hey, Bino. And it stuck.
Yeah.
And I had it all the time. And it was, them were great days,
Yeah.
growing up in the, but the park was good until baseball was a little too small.
Yes, I would think so.
We couldn't play, it was softball.
Okay.
And the guy wants some of the guys to be, no, don't play. I was decent at that time, about 12 years old, 13. I was already playing with it was 21 and under. I was playing already with them. And he says, don't change they didn't want me to go from softball and play baseball at the same time. You know, a baseball coming into you and a softball is two different
Certainly.
things,
Certainly.
So I thought it made sense, like I say, I cared for baseball so much, I went along with what they told me. And that Carl Gizzi was a manager too.
For Holy Rosary?
Yeah, Carl Gizzi. Well, like the priest helped, but the Carl Gizzi and he was very strict about that, and he says, don't, he says, Bino, I want you, you know, not to play softball now.
Right.
And I never did,
Okay. Okay.
you know.
Now, how did you learn the fundamentals of the game? Playing with your friends in the
I
neighborhood?
grew up doing it. I like eating,
Were there any adults?
just like eating, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Were there adults helping you before you?
Well,
played for the team?
when they saw me, the Kyle Gizzi helped me, Nick Oliver helped me, different things, and yeah, I had a few helping me.
Tell me a little bit about Nick Oliver. I've got a picture of him.
Well, I can't say too much because he was older than me, and I never hung around. But as a man, he cared. In fact, he took us, um, these when they get together and they had races and stuff like that. He took me when I was a kid, you know,
Okay.
racing stuff like that, and he was a good guy. And
How about in the summer when you weren't at school? Did you play? The neighborhood kids have a team?
if I was playing with all the Holy Rosaries played every summer,
Okay.
I was always with the Holy Rosaries, 13 on. I was with the Holy Rosaries, or 12. I was, I was really, because one time they was shot a guy, and they said, Bino, you know, you go and play shortstop. Where the shortstop ain't there.
Okay.
And I always wanted to be an outfielder.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I always wanted to be an outfielder. I got shortstop. Then the next game, Al Moore used to pitch for Durfee. He was fast as hell. And they told me, hey, Bino, we're missing the catcher. And I say, Jesus, he's got you. I caught him, you know. And they told me, and I was hitting the ball.
Yeah.
I was hitting the ball good. And they says, you're never gonna sit on the bench.
No.
And I played always played.
So you were playing with a lot of people that were a lot older than you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was 13 years old when that thing, and there was an oil man. He was French. I forget his name. When I was 15, he wanted me to try out for the Red Sox. Bring me up there.
Really?
Really. And you won't believe this, but my father was so strict. I had a Dodge plan. You believe me? My father told me. He said, I'm going to tell you. If you play football or stuff like that, you break a leg, you come out and break the other one. Yeah, but he was a good man.
Yes. Yeah.
He was a good man.
Yeah.
I guess he loved me and he was worried about me getting hurt.
Right.
But I played, and in fact, I was doing things like when I was playing professional baseball, I wasn't supposed to be playing football. I'm playing semi-pro. When they get paid.
How old were you?
18,
Really?
17, 18. Well, like I was saying, I was playing professional when I was 17.
It's amazing.
And I was playing for the Yankee Clippers,
Okay.
you know,
And where were they out of?
Columbus Park.
Okay.
It was mostly all Italian guys,
Yeah.
but we had this Irish guy, Bobby Newberry. I heard a story about that guy.
Yes. You
He's
told
gonna
me
be
you respect him a lot.
The people read the story. They made a big write-up of me over here, and people saw me. Sabino, I cry. The girls used to see me in the store. Said, I cried when I listened to when I read that. It was about a little while back. So I said, yeah, it's a little sad, but that's what happened.
Could you tell us what happened with Mr. Newberry?
Oh yeah, well, Bobby Newberry. I used to be the paper boy when I was a kid. They were wonderful people. They lived right next to the church, Holy Rosary Church. And what I thought was wrong in the CYO when I was a kid, when I had enough of brains, and I said, geez, if you came from an English-speaking church, like the
Right.
Maclips, the Irish, you could go at any team.
Okay.
But if you were to play for the Holy Rosaries, you had to be pure Italian.
Okay.
Because we played in, we had a Sylvia, his mother was Italian, and his father was Portuguese. They found out, they took the first 2 games away from us. And everybody,
Sure.
Sneaker McDonald, he turned out to be he was one of my best friends.
He's a
He
great
was
guy.
a great guy.
Now you told me you might have oh, no, Bill Hawkins has a program from him.
Oh yeah?
If I get it, I'll show it to you.
He was a great guy.
He always was a.
Yeah, with me, he cared for me and I cared for him.
So tell me about the story about Mr. Newberry.
Oh,
you were in all
yeah,
the
he was, and then
newspaper.
and he was about 5 years older than me, you know. And he liked me because I was, his mother and father got to like me and stuff like that. I was his paper boy. And every time, so help me, the Columbus Park, I'm always in the Columbus Park, you know. And if I'm not up to God and working, I'm in the Columbus Park. And Bobby Newberry would come across the park eating an apple or an orange, you know, and he'd look at me and say, Jimmy Walker, Jimmy Walker. You know, he called me Jimmy Walker. I don't know why. You know, he called me Jimmy Walker, Jimmy Walker, you know. And I love the guy. So, but what happened? But we made him. You know how to be Italian to play for the church. But we made him the captain and the quarterback for the Yankee Clippers. Mostly all the time. But we loved him.
Okay.
You know, we loved that guy. So then the war come. You know, I was about 14 or 15 when the war come. And Bobby Newberry joined the Marines.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And he was in Iwo Jima.
Okay.
And he got killed. And I tell you, it was the saddest thing ever. Us guys cried,
Sure.
you know, because we really liked the guy.
Right.
You know, he was such a gosh darn good guy.
Yeah.
We played against St. Patrick's, yeah, for the championship of the city.
Okay.
You couldn't walk in Ruggles Park. The place was so jam packed. You'll see it in the book, in the paper there. There was over 3,000 people at least, you know. And you had to hit it over the crowd.
Okay. The crowd was in the
For a
outfield.
homer. Because if you hit it in between the fielders, the fielder couldn't field it. Too many people.
Okay.
They rang the whole park, they on the hills, everything.
Really?
Yeah. So, and every time I would come up, they would walk me. You know, that's in the book too, you'll read it. So it come to 11th inning. The first guy got up. He got on. He got on base for us.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
So they didn't want to walk me. They said they elected to pitch to me, but they didn't want to because there was nobody out. You know, put another guy on base, and you could hear a pin drop in a park. A man come under the rope. You know, they had the rope, and somebody grabbed it and says, "I say, leave that man alone." I was getting the plate. You know. He says, "Bino, please, do it for Bobby. Do it for Bobby. He would love it." And he had tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
Then I got up, and I hit it over the tree, in right center. And there I am going on a base, and Mr. Newberry trying to, but all the people were jumping on me already.
Yes. Yeah.
But he finally got to me, you know, and but we couldn't talk. Too many people were jumping on me, you know. And
That's a very special memory.
oh yeah, so the St. Louis paper, they asked me what my greatest thrill was in baseball.
Yeah.
That's combined semi-pro and everything.
Right.
I said that was the greatest thrill of my plan. He says it beats my professional anything. That was the best thing I ever done. I says, and I was fortunate enough to hit that home run.
After that, then you were ready to begin a semi-pro ball,
But no, professional.
professional. Yeah.
Well, the scout got me. Well, what happened? I was working, and Cy Morgan come down, the scout for the Phillies, and there was about 200 guys on there, and I was
He was a
working.
former pitcher for the
I
Red
was
Sox.
when huh?
He had once pitched for the Red Sox.
You did?
Yes.
Obvious.
Yes.
Huh? And there was only 3 guys that made it. Me, Johnny Izzo, and Thing out of 200 something guys.
Wow.
You know, he picked me. He picked me. They had 3. Showed pretty good. You know.
Yeah.
I hit the ball good, and he signed me up right away.
When you came back, how did you get an opportunity to play for the Florida Indians?
Madowski had something to do with all that. I don't know what he done, but that guy's a slicker.
Yeah.
You know, all of us. I went back and I was doing. You know, I was doing decent. You know, I was, and all of a sudden I'm traded to the Indians, even though it was up in grade A up here, whatever.
Right.
I didn't give a shit about that, but
Yeah.
I liked the way I was. But that's when I went with the Indians.
Yeah, I think when you were at Delaware, you were batting .281 when you left.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I was. I was doing decent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was doing decent.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm surprised at him because they said he liked me. One of the higher ups said, "What you call it? The owner of the team. What the hell? He come especially to see me play one night. The owner of the Phillies, the whole Phillies.
Really? Wow.
You know, he says, because when I got up, I happened to strike out, but the ball, the guy, you know, and the guy told me, he was sitting next to the owner, and he says, "Boy, that kid can fly. I could run."
Yeah.
He says that was good baseball. So, you know, it made me feel pretty
Yes.
good
Yeah.
when he said that, you know.
Right.
And
But now you're home. Now you're home at Bigberry.
Yeah.
Let's go to that. Now I'm looking at the roster. You're the youngest player in the whole league in
Is that right?
1946.
yeah,
There was one pitcher that had a few games that was also 17. I think you were 17. So I looked at you were playing with older people.
oh
older
yeah, I
guys.
always was. Oh yeah, always much older than me.
Did you feel overwhelmed when you started?
Yeah. I felt good. I felt good. When I think what's his name? I played against that the catcher there.
Campanella?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tell me
that made
about
me
Camp.
feel so wonderful because that's when they start breaking the colored,
Right. That's what I
and,
wanted
and,
to
and
say.
it made me feel great.
Good.
And not only that, he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy.
What makes you say that?
He kind of cooled me down at the plate one time when the pitcher,
Newcomb?
yeah,
Don Newcomb?
yeah, he was fast, that guy. Well, I got a hit. I think it was him. It was a double or a triple off the right center field wall, and I don't know if it was him or them. Well, anyways, he pitched, and whoever's pitching, the guy was fast as hell. He put a couple by my head, you know, pretty fast.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the bat's gonna fly next time. That guy's throwing on my head. No. I said, come on, Wally Ward. Don't be like that. From the day on, he called me Wally Ward. So he was, and he was nice, and he would help you.
Woody.
Yeah, because you know you get the guys that you're playing with.
Right.
they talk about him. They say they help you. You do this, that.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. Boy, Roy playing today. You know. And you know, a lot of that was Roy. Was a good teacher.
So when you joined the Fall River team, were you a starter right from the beginning, or did you have to wait to break into the lineup?
And I showed up and I played.
Okay.
You know, but I hit in success in 2 nights in a row. Another solo homer.
Yeah.
2 in a row, right? And I was doing good.
That must have been a great feeling.
And but that guy, I didn't even get paid from that guy. Good old Modowski.
How much did he pay you?
I never got paid.
No, for the regular season though.
I never played that long. And I was doing good, and you know, the guy. Believe me, that's why I told the good old Modowski.
Yeah.
I played about 3 weeks with him.
I thought you just meant those contests. He didn't pay you for anything?
No.
Well, that let him make more improvements on the field then. Was he ever around at the games?
Huh?
Did you see him at the games? Would he be near the dugout?
I never seen that man in my life.
Really? Okay.
I never went in the dressing room and say, hey, thing. I dressed home and I come back, you know.
Yeah.
I'd get in the car and go. No, and if that goes on TV or whatever, there's a hope Modowski don't see this.
Tell us about the ballpark. What your best memories are of what it looked like, what was good about it, what wasn't so good about it.
As far as describing the park, I'll tell you, I saw Roy Campanella. Go back to him.
Yeah.
He hit a home run. I wouldn't want to field the ball. You'd have to walk a mile for it.
Really?
Oh, what a home run that was. Yeah. As far as the park, it was an ordinary park. It wasn't outstanding.
No.
You know.
No.
I'd rather play in Ruggles Park.
Okay. Did they keep the infield in good condition?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Now, how would you describe? You went around to all the parks. How is the lighting in Fall River compared to, say, Nashua or any? Or how are the other parks compared to Fall River?
Oh, I'd say Fall River was one of the best as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I like Fall River, the lighting in Fall River.
Okay.
You know, but I'll tell you what, I played night ball. I never cared for it. It seemed like the ball. It seemed to come on you faster than a day.
Okay.
You know, till I got used to it.
Batting and fielding, or just batting?
Just fielding.
Fielding.
Batting, I never had too much problems. I always could hit a ball.
Yeah.
You know, the faster the better for me.
Okay.
I used to like a fastball.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your first manager there, Jack Burns.
Oh, Jack Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember too much about that guy, but I'll tell you, he was a good manager.
Was he?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, he never favored me or didn't do me no favors, but I think he was a good guy, a good manager. He handled the players pretty good, and he got along pretty good.
Did you have a lot of practices, or was it mostly just games?
No practice.
No practices?
No.
No.
We was always on the road, or
Yeah.
you know, I mean, Fall River, then the next game would be in Pawtucket, and
How was the bus rides, and how much meal money would you get? How did that work?
the bus rides is always tough at night. Sometimes if you play, you know,
Yeah.
if you play a late game or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we had short runs, and it wasn't too bad.
Right.
He thought maybe that I would draw a big crowd.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
And the crowd wasn't as much as he figured.
Right.
by Bino. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Does that with a lot of players.
yeah.
Yeah.
I read there were a lot of players that came in and out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, I'm glad I didn't go in that dress room because there was a lot of arguments in there.
Oh, were there?
There was you know, oh yeah, discussions. Oh yeah. I got it from one of the guys. That's all.
Tell
Yeah.
me about some of the players on the Fall River Indians that you remember,
Oh.
either as players and/or for their personalities.
Well, I got a good story to tell you about that. There was two Italian guys on the team, and I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was the youngest guy in the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And they got to like me as soon as the first game. In fact, I took one of the guys' place, Azoni. Azoni was a shortstop. They put me shortstop.
Okay.
They put him second base. And Sagami was, he played first base. So them guys talk to the manager, you know, when you get on the bus, you don't be late or ask permission. So Sagami says, hey, why don't you travel with us, kid? We're like, you know, what the hell, the three of us are.
Yeah.
So I says, yeah, okay. I says, yeah, I don't mind. The three of us are down. So they asked permission. They said, yeah. Make sure you're there in time and stuff. You know, we don't mind. As long as you tell us, you know. So we're going, and the Sagami's driving the thing. All of a sudden, he's all going that way, going. I said, that guy knows how to drive. So I says, taps his own. He says, huh. You know, don't say nothing. I said, hey, what's going on here after a while? He says, he falls asleep every once in a while. I said, he falls asleep. I never went with him again. Never went with him
Did you
again.
get to the game on time?
Huh?
Did you get to the game on time?
Yeah, we got to the game on time. But boy, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Let me say a scary ride.
Yeah. How
You know,
about George Jankowski, the catcher?
Oh.
Was he your best?
He went with the White Sox.
Was he your best player?
Oh yeah.
Good guy.
Oh, huh?
Good guy.
Oh yeah, good guy. Oh yeah, good guy. But I'll tell you one, he gave me hell, boy. You know the funniest part. You know, a guy hits a ball. He hits a nice line drive. You know,
Yep.
over my head, and I drive in between the fielders. So the guy's circling the bases to make a home run, because like I said, there's no fence.
Right.
You know. So the guy relays the ball to me. You know.
Yeah.
And I get the ball, and I'm kind of far away, and I throws the ball. And you're out. You know, the people, the forward, the fans,
Yeah.
ooh, you know,
Yeah.
and I go, you figure it out.
Right.
So I go to the dugout, happy as a. So he turns around and says to me, hey, Bino, don't do that again to me. He says, you want me to get me killed? He says, don't throw it on a high fly no more. He says, the guy could have broke. I said, okay. I thought I had done a good job. I go in the front and I get help. They called me over here at Morse Cutting Tools.
Okay.
You ever heard of them?
Oh yes, certainly.
That was the best paying job you could get.
Okay.
And it was hard getting in there, you know. So when I didn't play, the following year I wasn't playing, I was playing the Morse Cutting Tools in New Bedford. You know, I'm only 15 miles away. A lot of the guys in New Bedford heard about me.
Right.
So they called me. Says, Bino, how about playing in the semi-pro league with us? I says, who's this? He says, Moss Cutting Tools. I said, oh yeah, I'll play.
Yeah.
You know, I always would, you know. So I played. I went and I batted the highest guy on the team.
Okay.
So they had a big banquet. And the boss, big boss from New York was there. And he says to me, who's Bino Solo? Says, he's over there eating. You know, the guy told me after, he said, I played up there.
Yeah.
He came over and says, hey, you don't work here, do you? No. He says, you're a former pro ball player, wasn't you? Yeah. He says, anytime you want a job here, you come here. I said, you mean that? He says, I mean that. You mentioned my name, Scott. So I says, okay, you're gonna be, this is funny. So I comes home, I said, oh, I gonna, you know, I think I can get in the Moss Cutting Tools. I goes down. I goes in and get to the personnel department, and guess who's there? What's his name? Joe Camacho. He's working in the office. You're the Joe Camacho.
I've heard the name, but I don't know much about him.
He's the guy who was with Ted Williams for 5 years.
Okay, I do. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went and see him there about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
You know. Yeah, we talked. So he says, hey, Bino, so Terrio, this guy Terrio, the person I heard he was a tough guy. You know, he was a wise guy sometimes.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just went and says, your name is, yeah, we're not hiring. I said, gee, I was told I can get hired here. He says, did you hear me? He says, leave this place. He says, we're not hiring. I said, oh, okay. I says, well, I guess I got bad information. He says, we'll give you what information you got. I says, Mr. Scott, the guy. He almost jumped out high. I said to me, I could do that at the banquet. He says, just a minute. You stay right there. We're going to get it. You're going to throw him out. He said, he went upstairs. He says to me, okay, he says, look, go for your examination tomorrow morning, and you start 4 o'clock at night. I said, I can't start. I can't work a night shift. Everybody starts here, starts at night. You go to nights. I says, I'm not playing. I says, Mr. Scott wants me to play for the team. He says, just a minute. Come on. Okay. You're going to start 8 o'clock. He says, but you're going to have your examination first. So that was it.
Excellent.
I went on conventions and went to a ball. There was 3 of us. Me, the president, vice president, and me, secretary, treasurer. These big shots were going to take care of us while we're away.
Okay.
And we met them. A big company. They pay for everything.
Okay.
But even though I was secretary treasurer, I gave the guys money.
Yeah.
Because I don't give them what I want. It was passed by the body.
Okay.
You know, the union body.
Right.
That's what they get.
Right.
Yeah. So well, anyways, to make a long story short, he says, is that the guy that played ball? It was us and the other guy. says, yeah. He said, I want to take care of him tonight. The guy said, okay. He said, you take care of the other two guys. He said, yeah, I'll take him in big, you know, dance, nightclubbing and everything else, you know. So he says to me, he says, we're going to go see a ball game. Johnny Myers was playing, all them guys.
Okay.
You know, Mallott and
Yeah.
he said, we're going to go in a dugout. I said, you kidding? He says, no, you're a former ball player. He says, you didn't make them ages. He says, but you played pro. He says, we're going to go in and he was a big shot,
Yeah.
and he knew them guys. He must have took a lot of guys. Yeah, well, anyways, to make a long story short, he got, and them guys. At that time, there was nothing talking about signing, you know, autographs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Autographs was, you know, nothing, you know, nobody was valued the autograph or nothing like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, to make a long story short, he says they're gonna, he gave me, he said they're all gonna sign the ball. Brand new ball.
Yeah.
Signed it. There were names on there, Mallott and all that. Beautiful. I'm telling you, the names are the most popular names. Brand new. I gave this away, I gave that away. I gave even my glove away. I used to give things away, you know. So my nephew, Bobby, I says, hey, Bobby, save this ball. You know, this nice ball. Oh, man, they signed, yeah, save it. It's okay. So he saved it. I thought he saved it.
Yeah.
Then there's autograph stuff coming up,
Oh.
you know?
Yeah.
And I told the guy's name. He says, you know, guy says, and no exaggeration, Phil. He turned around, he says, that ball's worth a couple of $100,000 if it's in good shape.
Yeah.
I says, brand new. He said, wow, Bino, you're going to have money.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, you see the right person, and I'll get your connection. I said, gee, okay. I go see the kid. I said, hey, where's that ball? He said, oh, we've been playing with that ball a long time ago. I almost passed out.
That's an awful
I go
story.
white, I turn gray, everything. I said, well, it's my fault. I should have never done a thing like that.
Maybe you could begin by telling us your background in terms of what you did before you played for the Indians, in terms of how baseball developed in your life.
Well, I went in right out of high school. I went into the Navy, and
I have a picture of you playing on the basketball team at Durfee.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, yeah,
So you did that. Did
yeah,
you play other
yeah,
sports at Durfee?
yeah. Football and basketball and baseball.
So then you went into the service.
Yeah, and I spent 2.5 years in the Navy.
What years were those, Bill?
43 to 46. Yeah, I played a little bit, you know, not very much, so I think that didn't help us because there were so many guys playing baseball in the service who were playing minor league baseball previous, and of course when the war ended, they all went back to their teams.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a big explosion of interest.
Oh yeah, everybody was waiting for baseball. They had minor league teams all over the country, Class D, Class C, A, Double A, Triple A,
Right.
beside, but only 8 teams in the majors.
So what were your thoughts in 1946 in terms of playing professional baseball?
Well, I had always dreamed of it, you know. I always wanted to play. I thought I could do well. But I only played those 3 years I tried it, and I could see that I wasn't going to get very far because I just couldn't hit a curveball. They had a tryout at Kennedy South Park then, yeah. And a lot of people turned up. You had to wear a uniform.
Again, you've got to be rusty coming out of your service time.
Yeah.
Did you get to practice before the tryout? I mean, to get yourself.
Well, not really. You
No.
know, we had workout. We got a park and had usual guy get 10 hits and the next guy gets up and you chase the ball around the outfield. And what I used to do, we lived on Osborne Street. So I used to get up in the morning and have breakfast, and somebody bought me a pair of baseball shoes for Christmas. It must have been my mother. But I didn't want to wear them out, so I got a large size. So I used to go down the park for 9 o'clock, and I'd walk in the gutter because there was a little dirt in the gutter. I didn't want to wear out the spikes. And then I'd bring a sandwich and some lunch with me, and there was a water cooler there. So I'd stay there until 5 o'clock playing baseball, and then I'd go home and have supper, and then I'd come back at night and watch the games to see.
Okay.
So it was 9 to 9,
That's
really, yeah.
that's an involvement.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have a lot of neighborhood friends that played ball with you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I remember one of our telephone conversations. You said in the late 30s, before the war, Charlie Carey was very great.
Charlie Carey, most players share a room at spring training.
Okay.
Charlie Carey and I shared a bed.
Really?
Shared a bed, yeah. We were cutting expenses, I guess. But we had to sleep in a double bed, yeah.
And where was that, Bill?
Down the Cape.
Down-
You might as well be here. It's windier down there.
So your training was in,
Oh,
did I read Harwich someplace in the print?
oh yeah, it was around Harwich.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it wasn't Harwich, but it was in that area, yeah.
And what did you use, a high school ball field or something? to
Yeah.
train?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it wasn't exactly going south.
Oh, no.
I did read one year Madowski took them down to Maryland.
That's right. Because Wiggles Porter lived there, and that's the chicken capital of the country, that is. And he was able to get the facilities in the field and make arrangements for sleeping. And
So he
Oh,
was,
and,
he was your manager in your
yeah.
second stint with the Indians.
the
Wiggles?
his second.
Let's go back to the first year. So
Yeah.
you had your tryout, and
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of us try out, and Charlie was one of the ones that tried out and was invited to spring training. And but he didn't. They only picked me for some reason. But Charlie was a great athlete. Charlie Carey was.
were you well fed when you were down the Cape?
Well, yeah, I was. Well, you ate enough. I mean, it wasn't extravagant by any means, but it kept you going.
I've got this Ted Williams jacket. They had a great team in '46. Obviously, the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Would the ball players for the Florida Indians be talking about the Red Sox and the Braves during,
Yeah, usual talk about, how they were doing and what team they liked. And there were a lot of guys in the Boston area. There was a lot of talk about Boston, yeah.
And there was a lot of interest in the Braves as well, right?
Yeah, the Braves. That's the first major league team I saw.
Oh, was it?
I can remember the first player I saw, I thought he wouldn't even look human. I admired him so much. Roy Pomeroy. See if you remember that
Not
name.
a name that I'm familiar with.
Chicago Cubs, he was a pitcher. I expected somebody to even look different than a human. Yeah.
So, do you remember the business part of this in terms of, was it Madowski himself that offered you a contract?
Yeah,
And then did he just tell you what he'd pay you? Or
Yeah, that's it. You didn't want it, you
No
didn't play.
negotiation?
No. I was in no position to negotiate. I was just thankful to get the chance to try. $110 a month.
$110 a month. Well, what were you making in the service?
Well, we were making that more than that, but I forget. I had to send money home to my mother, and so we were making a hell of a lot.
What happened next? Do you remember signing? I mean, this would be your first professional. Did you sit
I remember,
at a desk? Or?
I went in I think he had an office downtown, and he had an office in the Union Mills over here.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, next to the boilers. It was a very non-extravagant guy. So he had his office in there near the boilers where he had some heat and everything else. Yeah. So Joe paid everybody. He could, if you played for, you got $1 an hour. He wasn't going to pay $1.10.
Well, everybody said you were a superb fielder.
Yeah, well, that was one of my strong points. Yeah, yeah. I could run and I could field, and I had an average arm. Defensively, I was all right, but
Were you in the outfield all the time?
center field, yeah.
Yeah. Now that's, as I read, you had a lot of area to cover.
Oh, yeah.
That fence was way back.
Oh, way back. One guy from Cranston come down and he looked at the stadium, he looked around and says, "When did the B-29s land?"
How was the quality of the outfield grass?
Terrible.
Was it?
Yeah,
Bumpy,
terrible. Because I played April, May, June, July. I didn't make an error until maybe July. And I went down for a base hit and I went through my legs. So the next guy hit a fly ball and I said, "I got it." And some guy from the stand said, "I doubt it." Yeah.
Did you hear the fans?
Oh, they were right on top of you.
Yeah, yeah.
They had portable bleachers first baseline and they had
How far out did they go?
just beyond, just out into these foul pole at the, not all the way to the fence. They might have held a couple hundred people if they crowded it in.
How old were you in 1946?
21.
You must have had some friends come watch you.
Yeah, well, I knew, I knew some people. I don't think they came to watch me. I think they came to see the game because my brother and his wife used to be there all the time.
How were the uniforms? Were they?
Yeah, they were nice. They were nice. They were like gray with the navy blue, and they were decent uniforms. But you only got one. Didn't have a dryer in your house, boy, it wasn't easy. You'd wear a dirty uniform. Yeah.
Would management get on the players to make sure they had clean?
No. Joe didn't bother with anybody much, Yeah, Joe was all business.
Yeah.
Nice. I got along very well with him. That's what he had. Paid he pay, you agreed to what he paid you. But he was going to pay an extra $1, though.
Tell me, what kind of a personality was he? Strong?
You never really got to know Joe. I liked him. He was pretty friendly kind of a guy.
Did he like baseball, do you think? Or was he just doing it?
For Joe, it was business. I don't. He might have been a baseball fan, but I didn't think so. No.
I don't think he made much money in the 4 years.
No, he didn't. No. Yeah.
Some of the other teams were subsidized.
Yeah, like Nashua and Manchester. Yeah, they were subsidized.
When you played a team like that, did you feel that it was a real uphill battle to win a game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every game was. Every game was. But particularly a team like Manchester or Lynn was the Red Sox,
Yes.
and they had some good players like Nashua had Don Newcomb and Campanella.
Did you bat against Newcomb?
Yeah,
What was that experience like?
he wasn't afraid of me at all.
Were you afraid of him?
Yeah. Yeah, he would throw that ball, boy, yeah. He could hit, too.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did it.
He's all around,
It was pretty hard to hit home runs in some of those ballparks, so.
I hit one.
One.
Ray Cody, who was from Fall River,
Ray
playing.
Cody was from Fall River. He was a good ball player, wasn't he?
Very good. He played for years. He never hit below 300. Never got higher than B. That's how difficult it was to get ahead.
It was very competitive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So many guys playing.
And he lost. The ball got lost in the grass. I just kept running. I still think Ray knew where the bloody ball was, but he said, let him have a home run.
So you get your home run. Inside the park home run. Perhaps compliments.
I couldn't hit it out of that ballpark, even though right was short field, but I never could get the batter around and pull it very much unless they threw me a changeup. But he was a nice guy, but you didn't get much instruction from him,
No, I think I read that Madowski wasn't hot on him by the end of the year. I think he wanted to replace him after 1 year.
Well, he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe Holding came in.
Yeah, no, you didn't play for Holden though, right?
No, but I know him, yeah.
Tell me
yeah.
about him.
He was a nice guy, but he used to, what's famous remark to me was, not to me, I never did it, but some guys go up to the plate and he goes, he said, the Lord leads you when you get in the batter's box. Yeah.
During the games, was there much spirit in terms of to keep people talk a lot, or did they?
No, not really.
No.
Well, you know, you're always kind of trying to do your best, but it was a little discouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the pitches came in one after the other, and we didn't have too much power, so but you played as hard as you could. I always played that way anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And was when you were there in '46, was Johnny Hillman involved?
John was involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
John was on the pitching staff there. He pitched. He drove the bus.
Yeah.
He was a trainer. He was everything, John. Nice guy.
And I know you were a very successful baseball player, but how did you learn the game of baseball before Durfee?
It's a hard story to believe because when I went out for the Durfee High School baseball team, I had never played in a formal baseball game. I had never had a uniform on in my life. And I grew up in the Highlands section of Fall River in a little area called Leamingville. And we just it was not a real baseball field. The WPA guys built it during the Depression. And we played all pickup games, and I just loved to hit. So when my sophomore year in Durfee, I said I'm going out for the baseball team, and there were 125 or so guys went out, and I was a shy, retiring type, and I was the 125th to hit. And one thing was I was a left-hand hitter, and Luke Urban was the coach, and his reputation, he was as tough as nails. So everybody had 3 swings, so I had 3 swings, and I hit him pretty good. So we went out the next day, and he grabbed Jack Robinson, was a good pitcher. And that first day, we were hitting from center field the other way. So he said,
Where was this, Bob?
at Alumni Field.
Alumni, of course.
And he said, Jack Robinson, warm up. He says, Tripp, get up there and hit. So on Robinson's first pitch, I swung, and it was only 225 feet to right field. And I hit it on a line over the fence. And there were 2 people in the state of shock. One was Lukey and the other one was me. So then he says, where do you play? And I said, third base. So he says, okay, get out there at third base. I'll hit you some grounders. He hit me, I couldn't reach he says, you said you played third base. I said, yeah, but never on a field like this. So we got along, and I made the team. And opening day, of course, we're talking wartime now, it's 1942. And I'm just a bench warmer. Lukey looks at the bench, he says, Tripp, get out in right field. I said, okay. And then the next thing I know, I'm hitting fourth. I'm not even going to play it now. I'm hitting fourth. So I got up the first time up. I was so nervous. I took 3 pitches right down the middle. So in right field, you got nothing to do but think. And I said, gee, this guy isn't throwing as hard as our guys do in batting practice. So the next time I got up and I hit doubles, good doubles. And we go to the second game, I'm back on the bench. So 3 games later, we're playing New Bedford. and they got a guy that's really throwing hard in the 7th inning. He's pitching a no-hitter and has struck out just about anybody. And Lukey looks at the bench. He says, "Hey, Tripp, go up there, take a strike, and get a hit." So I did. I took the strike and hit it right back through right into center field. So at this point, I'm 3 for 4. So we're in the clubhouse after the game. He says, hands me a first baseman's mitt. He says, "Here, anybody can play first base, all you got to do is hit." So that's what I did. I played first base from that time on.
Now, was he a good instructor?
Oh, he was excellent. He was an unbelievable person.
Did you have a good grasp of fundamentals, or did he
Yeah.
develop them during your high school career?
Both. I had a good grasp of fundamentals.
Well, take us to the end of your high school career then. You had, how many, 3 successful years at Durfee playing baseball?
Yes, I did.
And was your senior year your best year,
Yes.
performance-wise? We were at Donald Butch Taylor's porch when I first met you 3 years ago, Bob, and
Right.
if I recall, someone told me at the time that you batted over 500 for the season.
My senior year, I hit .525.
And so you finished Durfee and then went into the service?
Yes. Before I went into the service, the Philadelphia Phillies held a tryout camp at South Park and Fall River.
I have some of the literature on that.
Yeah. And so I went to that, and in the meantime, there was a Brooklyn Dodgers scout that was up at a game, one of the Durfee games. So I had those 2 exposures to professionals.
Was it unusual for a professional scout to go to a Durfee game?
Yeah. And this happened, do you know Dr. Fitton in Fall River?
Yes.
Okay, he and I were neighbors. We lived 2 houses apart. And he was 4 years younger, but we were good friends. And his father was a cotton broker. They had cotton brokers then. And he did business with a man in Mobile, Alabama, which was in the Class AA Southern Association. And he had him come up and scout me, and that's how Brooklyn found out about me.
Now, tell me about your service experience.
Well, at the time, you had your choice of being drafted into the Army at 18 or enlisting before in the Navy or Marines. So I enlisted in the Navy 2 years previously, and that was in August, and on September 22nd, I went in the Navy. And I was assigned to a division of the Navy that was only in World War II. It was called the Armed Guard. And we were gunners on merchant ships. So we spent a month actually living on the ship while it was being built. Okay. Then we got on the ship, went down the ship canal to Galveston, Texas, and had it demagnetized. We got our cargo. Our cargo was 10,000 tons of bombs. We got in a convoy with 125 ships. And in the it's like 10 rows of 12 ships. And the ships with the most dangerous cargoes are in the middle, so we're dead center. So we get going, and what you had was on the merchant ship, there was a large 3-inch gun on the bow, a large 5-inch on the stern, and 4 20 millimeters on each side of the bridge, so there were 8. Now, one guy could use a 20 millimeter, but it had to be a merchant marine that would feed us the magazine. And there were 4 or 5 guys on the bow and 5 or 6 on the stern. So there were 20 of us on. And everybody called it the Hollywood Navy because we didn't have the spit and polish of the regular Navy. And then we hit a storm out in the North Atlantic. If you knew the history of these Liberty ships, they were literally built in a month. And they were just the bare metal, and some of them actually broke in two. And I can tell you, in this 4 days, I still don't know how this one didn't. I never saw anything like, never experienced anything. And then every once in a while, there'd be like 6 destroyer escorts, and if a German submarine showed up, we'd separate, and they'd come right up beside us. So we'd have a few scares like that. And I came back from that unscathed, spent a week, and I'm getting on a ship going to Murmansk, Russia. And this was called a death run. And at the end of World War II, they'd be in the same convoy, but if you got to Scotland, they'd break off. But fortunately, the war ended on the way. And I got out of the Navy in June of '46.
Okay.
And I wasn't home a week, and the call came from Brooklyn. Nashua was coming down Wednesday to play a twilight doubleheader at Fall River Stadium. Could you go there for a tryout? I said, yeah, I guess so. He said, all right, be there, and when you see a bunch of guys come in, ask for Mr. Alston. And it was Walter Alston who was the manager of that team. So we got dressed, went out to Fall River Stadium, and we got out there, and he said to me, take 5 swings. And here again, it was a short right field.
Yes.
I think it was about 290, and I hit 5 swings. I hit 5 hard grounders and 5 line drives. At the time, I was 5'10", I weighed 150 pounds. And so he said, hit 5 more. So on the 6th one, I hit it, out of the park, and it wasn't even close. And I heard one guy say to another, I told you. And out of the next 4, I hit 2 of those out. So then he said, okay, come down first base, hit me some grounders and that. And he said, we'd like to take you back to Nashua after the game. Could you come up? And I said, I've been away for 2 years. I've been all over the world. I said, I really don't want to play baseball. He said, you don't have to. Could you do it? So I said, yeah. So I took the bus home. And I had promised my mother I'd go to college. I wouldn't play pro baseball. So I went up there for 3 days. And in this league, there were 8 teams, but there were 3 good ones. There was Nashua, Brooklyn Dodgers farm team, Manchester, New York Giants, and Lynn was the Boston Red Sox. Now, I was in uniform, I couldn't play, but the first game I was there, Nashua was playing Manchester. The battery for Nashua was Don Newcomb pitching and Roy Campanella catching. And these guys had no business being in that league. These 2 guys weren't quite good enough for Montreal, but they should have been in Double-A. And then after the 3rd night, Buzzy Bavasi, who became the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, said, you're not ready for this league. We'd like to send you up to Three Rivers, Quebec in the Canadian-American League. And I said, gee, I really can't do it. So he pulls out a wad of bills like I had never seen. He says, how much would you need to get home? I said, I don't know, $20. So he handed me $20 and I came home.
Did you practice in front of Alston in the time that you were there?
Yes. Yeah, and he was, he was impressed enough to take me up there and then say I could go. But I came back, and I decided I would go to Bryant College. And Bryant College then was a 2-year school, but it went from Labor Day to end of July. So I would just go one semester. And in the meantime, I got a contract from the Phillies to go to Dover, Delaware. So that's where I signed.
What made you decide that you would play ball?
The fact that I could do it and go to college too.
Okay.
And I tell you, I had no confidence that I could ever play. And somehow I made it. And then my goal was just to get 10 games in so I could get in the official baseball register where they list every minor league team.
Yes.
So I got my 10 games in and kept going, and surprisingly, I was at no time I don't think a major league prospect, but I turned out to be a very good fielder, and for my size, I hit the ball harder and sometimes longer than most people my age. So I actually got. After my second year, I was with Terre Haute, Indiana, in the Class B 3I league. 3I was the letter I, Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa. And I always, for some reason, I always played my best against the Brooklyn Farm teams. So that fall, Pueblo, Colorado, drafted me from Terre Haute for the staggering sum of $2,500.
How much were you being paid?
Like I say, I was offered $175 to go to Three Rivers. I signed at Dover for 125. And then my second year, I started off in Americus, Georgia, which I mean was, you talk about rednecks, this was unbelievable. I was getting $175 a month. We had a terrible team. I was having a good season. At the end of July, I got promoted to Terre Haute, Indiana. I got a raise up to $225 a month. And the newspaper guy was asking me questions. He said, what's your biggest thrill in baseball so far? I said, leaving Americus. Then I got a letter from Brooklyn saying, we'd like you to report to Vero Beach March 1st, a chance to make a higher class team. And I can remember my first time up, at that time, we were all just colors and numbers, and they had the major leaguers pitched in with the minors. And I can remember the first time I came up, the bases were loaded, 2 out. I was batting against Clarence Podbilian. I think he played a little with the Dodgers, but I think it was mostly AAA. First 2 pitches, I'd seen minor league curveballs, and they started your eyes, and I'm saying, gee, one more of those, you're out of the inning. But he threw a fastball, and I clocked it right past him into center field. And I mean, here again, I had no business doing that.
You did it though.
Yeah. And then when they came time to pick, they started off, the first team they picked was Miami, Florida. We're going to start the season, and it was a Class B team. So I'm picked to go to Miami, and instead of getting the 300, I'm getting the 250. And I thought I had a good spring training, my chance for higher class. And we got on the bus, and we're all in the same boat. So we all said we're going on strike. So the general manager said, yeah, pay us the money we paid for you, we'll let you go. The old saying was that if it cost a nickel to go around the world, I couldn't get out of sight. So we finished the season, and
Was that you last year?
no, I played. The other thing, my eyes went bad, and they were really bad. So after that season, I went to an eye doctor, and I got glasses. And I started the season off at Newport News in the Piedmont League, and I was just having so-so. But it happened the third game of the season. I was on second base in Richmond, Virginia, and a guy singled to center, and I slid into home plate head first, and both lenses came out. I didn't think anything. I put them back in, and then when I went back to the doctor when I got home in September, he said, "How'd these lenses get changed?" I played the whole season with but it was still better than what I could see. I said, "Hey, I'm going to school." You do, but it's not always the same, because so much of it is mental. That's the thing you can't emphasize enough, is you're playing 140. Most of the minor league schedules were 140 games, but you're playing so often, and one night maybe you knock in the winning run, and then the next night you strike out with the bases loaded. So you got to be able to handle all that, and it's a grind. You got these long bus trips. Like when I was at Billings, we would go from Billings to Boise, Idaho, and it was 750 miles.
Oh my goodness.
You'd finish a game at 10 at night, and you get on the bus, and you get in Boise at 4 in the afternoon. You got to play.
How were the hotel accommodations, and how was the food that you were?
Oh, it was pathetic. I can tell you, when I was at Americus, Georgia, and we played in, you probably never heard of Americus, and we played in we call it Albany, they call it Albany, but then we were in Moultrie, Georgia's Cordele. The only decent city, it was the Georgia-Florida League, was Tallahassee. But I can remember in Thomasville, Georgia, one night in July. Not only that, but we didn't even have twin beds, 2 guys to a bed. And in those days, there was no air conditioning, there was an overhead fan. And I can remember one night, 2 o'clock in the morning, me and my bunk mate couldn't sleep, so we grabbed the sheet, took it in the shower under the cold water, soaked ourselves, did the cold, and had the cold sheet. Then we went back into bed. So we sleep a little bit now.
When you were in the South, were there segregated stands?
Oh yes, oh yes. It was really, so not only segregated stands, but even to the point of public drinking fountains. There'd be whites only, coloreds only. The whites were in the grandstand, and the blacks were in the bleachers. Even in Miami, it was the same way. I played in the dedication of was the state-of-the-art stadium, Miami Stadium, in 1949. And there's a fellow down there, he contacted me a year ago, wanted to talk to me about playing the opening game in that new stadium. And the thing he couldn't get over was that even that was segregated in Miami. And in that league was there were 7 cities in Florida and Havana, Cuba. And Havana, Cuba had a pitcher, Dumbo Fernandez, and he was as black as a person could possibly be. And yet he could play in the United States, but a black person in the United States could not play in the United States.
That's fascinating.
And in my last year in Asheville, which was 1952, when now the blacks had 5 years in the game, and I can remember warming up before the game in front of the stands, and I was playing catch with a black fella that was working out with the team. And a fella yells out, he says, "Hey, Trip, is he a Negro or a Cuban?" I said, "What difference does it make?" He said, "If he's Cuban, he can play here, but if he's black, he can't." I said, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?"
Terrible. Bob, to conclude, I'm going to be talking about the New England team from 46 to 49.
Right.
But then, when the New England League disbanded in 1950, Joe Madowski was able to host the Major League All-Star barnstorming team of Bertie Tebbetts.
Right.
And I know how the game turned out, but I want you to tell everyone what happened that day.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was at Fall River Stadium. It was on a Saturday night. First time up, Joe Coleman was pitching. We got to the 8th inning, and somehow it's tied 3-3, and I'm leading off the 8th inning, and the same guy's pitching, and I guess he figures all he's got to do is throw it over the plate, and he's got out number 1. But it was right down the middle, and I hit it good, and I didn't need the short right field fence. It really went out, and I think the best part of it, the right fielder for the American League, was Bob Kennedy, who later now became the general manager of the Chicago White Sox, and he said to me, "That was a major league home run, kid." I spent my career in traffic management and industrial purchasing. So I spent 32 years at Continental Screw in New Bedford and 12 years at U.S. Ringbinder.
It was when you were having that experience, you told me that you played against Vino Strollo? Maybe?
Yeah, in softball, actually, in New Bedford.
Yeah.
He was playing for Revere Copper and Brass, and I was playing for Continental Screw.
Oh, that's great. Good morning on a beautiful day for baseball, sitting on the back porch, a lovely back porch of Fred Lavoie. Fred represents our youth movement in terms of our interviews, and Steve Rice has been doing a grand job during these interviews. But we've talked to players to this point in time. And Fred, you're how old?
I'm 84 and I'll be 85 November.
Okay, so you're our youth movement.
Oh, I guess so.
You were not a player, you were involved in another capacity. So could you tell us your experience, how you got started with Fall River Stadium?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I was 17 years old and hanging around, and I lived on 4th Street, and it was very close. I could walk down to the stadium with no problem. So I used to go down and watch the Fall River Indians play. So one day, the gentleman that was selling the programs got sick. And I knew the guy, and I said, well, I'll sell the programs for you. I can do that. So I sold the programs. So then after the game was over, Joseph Madowski was the owner of the Fall River Indians. And he said to me, how old are you? And I told him, he said, would you be interested in selling the programs at the game? I said, sure. So that started that. And then from that, I went to work in a concession. They sold hot dogs and soda in one section. This was underneath stands in Fall River Stadium. And then off to the side, they sold beer. but I was too young to do that. So I sold hot dogs and the soda and coffee and things like that. And I did that for maybe a year and a half. So Joe Madowski came up to me one night and he said, you have any plans for the next couple of days? And I said, no. He said, why? He said, I want you to be bat boy. He said, we're going to Nashua, New Hampshire. And we got a little uniform, uniform, and I was thrilled. I said, oh, this is great. So I went on the bus with all the players, and we went to Nashua, New Hampshire. Roy Campanella was playing at the time. Don Newcombs was pitching at the time. So that all, in my head, was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, you know. And I did that for that game. And then the other game, I went with the Lynn Red Sox. And I bat boy for that for a while. We come back to Fall River Stadium, and he said, well, I said, I need you in the concession. I can't let you be bat boy, because I need you in it. So I said, fine, that was a good deal. Joe Madowski was one of the nicest men that you could ever want to meet. He is the man that donated the land for the Boys Club where it is now. He owned all that property, and he donated it to the Boys Club. And they built this beautiful building, which they have now.
Fred, tell us about his personality from your view.
Joe Madowski?
Yes.
Joe Madowski was a tough businessman, but very compassionate. I mean, he was so good to people. He had this man, George Ballard, that took care of all the concessions at Fall River Stadium at the time. And they got to be very friendly. And this George got sick, and Mr. Madowski took care of him, paid all his bills and everything. Just, to my opinion, Joe Madowski was one of the nicest person, but on the top, he was tough. He was a very tough businessman. And that's how it went, yeah.
It seems from what I've learned that mix is mentioned frequently, that he was a tremendous fellow, but he was
tough.
Tight with the dollar.
That's the words.
There's a few stories about that.
That's right, that's the words. He was, like I said, he's a gentleman. And he was so good to me. I was a young kid from Corky Row, and something like this, whoa, I was in my glory. Bat boy, going on a bus, paying for my food. It was just a nice thing.
Was the Lynn trip the same bus trip that you went to Nashua on, or was that a separate?
That was a separate one, yeah. I did bat boy twice.
And they had a very good team, Lynn.
Lynn Red Sox, yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was good. Like I said, growing up like that, coming from Corky Row, nothing bad about Corky Row. I love Corky Row, but it was a big thing in my life.
We've had this discussion, but tell me again about Clint Dahlberg.
Clint Dahlberg was a big, he had to be 6'2" or 6'3" at the time. He was he was an outfielder, a left-handed batter. And at Fall River Stadium, right field. Right field was very short because we had the water and the rail. There was railroad tracks there. And kids used to get on the fence and wait for him to come to bat because he'd put it over the fence. He was a beautiful swing. He had it. He was good. And he was a gentleman. And then we had local.
Did you have a sense that he might go on to maybe
I think so.
higher level?
I think so. Oh, yes. And he was, like I said, Class A, a gentleman.
Do you remember warming him up? Did you tell me that once before a game?
We would before the game. I'd get my glove and I'd go up on, on the first base side and we'd throw back and forth. And he'd say, how hard do you want me to throw? And I'd say, well, but do what you can, and it worked out good. Then we had Billy Hawkins, local man, good.
How about Bill Maddie?
Bill Maddie, left-handed pitcher, good pitcher, big man, as you know. He was 6-something, and he could throw the ball. Bino Strollo is another guy that played there. I said Billy Hawkins.
Billy Kay?
Billy Kay, a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that was good. Like I said, I enjoyed going down there. And then I went to sell programs in the stand. Then after that, I go into the concession and sell the hot dogs for them. But enjoyable growing up. Coming from Corky Row, it was a big thing in my life.
So how many years were you involved?
I was there about 4 years.
Yeah, that's the length of the
That's about the thing,
team.
yeah. Like I said, it was one of my great points in my life growing up to go down there. And after a while, I could go anywhere, do anything I want, help the groundkeepers and do that. enjoyable, very, very enjoyable.
Pretty good quality?
When it first started, it wasn't good, and the other teams would complain. You know, the outfield, they couldn't see the ball, and then Mr. Madowski put in new lights. He did put a whole new system in there. You know, they had the strings and all that across. But Joe tried to do what he could afford. He was class A. He was great.
Because he didn't have any subsidy like some of the other teams.
That's right. That's right.
Fall River deserved to have a team in that league in terms of our size at the time. So he's directly responsible for making that possible.
Yeah, definitely. And he was, like I said, he was a gentleman. Never got mad. Well, he got mad, but not at me, you know. But I loved the man. I loved the man. Yeah, yeah. Johnny Hillman was he did everything. He would work in the clubhouse. He would, you know, help out during the clubhouse. And then he went to the Y. He worked at the YMCA for the longest while. And every once in a while, I would go swimming down there and I'd run into him. We'd go back just like we're talking right now. So many good things. He helped so many players that came into Fall River. He was just a nice gentleman, honest with everybody, not a phony in any way. He was just a great guy. Loved him.
And he was the older fellow, so I'm sure
He was the
commanded
older man.
respect
Oh, yes. Yeah.
quality.
And then he became the trainer. I think the last season he became the trainer of the Red Sox. Oh, this is going back a long time. Wow. But all good memories. All good memories. I think, and I really mean this, that caved my way of growing up. I seen all these nice guys, all these good ball players, all these good people. And this Joe Madowski made such an impression on me. And I think that's got a lot to do with my bringing up my great family,
Yeah,
really.